The janitor only took one glance at the vegetables in the greenhouse and spotted the suspect buried in the soil. Although the person had already become a corpse, it still left Detective Dack utterly amazed. The body had obviously been buried recently. There was no decomposition or stench yet. But how did Ella figure it out? You might not believe this, but it was actually because tomatoes and cucumbers were planted together in the soil. These two plants don't have a companion relationship and will only compete for nutrients. Plus, their roots hadn't even taken hold yet, clearly showing they'd just been planted. As an extreme environmentalist, the suspect Wendy obviously wouldn't make such a rookie mistake. The only explanation was that she was trying to hide something buried in the soil. The reasoning was incredibly smooth, but Dack still couldn't feel happy about it. They'd originally come to investigate a missing persons case, but now the suspect had turned into a murder victim. Which case should they investigate first? As a fellow mother, Ella had already promised the person who filed the missing persons report that she'd help find the two missing children as soon as possible. That's why, even before the 24-hour window had passed and the police couldn't officially open a case, she'd dragged Dack to Wendy's house. Actually, the reporter's ex-husband could very likely have kidnapped the two children over visitation rights issues, but with the discovery of his body, the survival rate of the two children had dropped below 40%. They rushed to the reporter's home without stopping. Using her natural charisma, Ella managed to get some leads from the nanny. The children's grandfather, Old White, was in the hotel business, and his house was filled with antiques from various countries. More importantly, he had a terrible relationship with his former son-in-law. Last week, the two had gotten into a heated argument in the study over visitation rights and environmental issues. Old White clearly had a motive for murder, but without evidence, they couldn't just arrest him. As Ella's brain started working at full speed again, she quickly discovered something among the complicated clues. A community official, in describing the deceased Wendy, had said she always fed the children junk food, but the vegetables in the greenhouse were obviously grown for the kids. And when it came to education, the report said Wendy let the children become addicted to electronic devices. Yet there was only one well-worn survival guide in the house. Obviously, that official was lying, trying to use this to strip Wendy of her visitation rights. What was she really after? The two rushed to Sarah Keller's house. She claimed everything she did was for the children's sake. Wouldn't living in a big mansion with their mother be better than being with Wendy in the countryside? But Ella saw right through her. She'd been bought off. The mail pile was full of collection notices from the bank, and the furniture and household items were all bought on clearance sales. Sarah's life was obviously tight on money, yet she had money to vacation on a foreign island. If you're curious how Ella figured that out, just look at the wreath hanging on the wall. The plants on it were unique to that island, but the most crucial detail was the slippers Sarah was wearing right now. They were exclusive to the 5-star hotel on the island, which Sarah obviously couldn't afford on her income. The only explanation was that she'd made a deal with Old White. At this point, Dack also played along, pointing out that this involved a murder case and a missing persons case, and lying carried legal consequences. Sarah had no choice but to admit that she'd met with the deceased Wendy a few days ago. Wendy had told her she'd already collected enough evidence to prove that her father-in-law Old White had been bribing officials and that his hotel didn't meet environmental standards. For money, Sarah had sold this intelligence to Old White. She never imagined it would lead to Wendy's death.